Somali Civil War, 2009 to 2018, timeline. Islamist-ARS/TFG coalition conflict. On February 4, 2009, 4 Islamist groups, including Gashandigaournal's Eritrean branch of the ARS, merged and created the group Hizbul Islam, to fight the new government of Sharif Ahmed. Al-Shabaab also vowed to fight the government. On February 8, 2009, they declared war on the new government of Sharif Ahmed and the AU peacekeepers. New TFG President Sheikh Sharif Sheikh Ahmed arrived in Mogadishu as a president for the first time on February 7, 2009. The Al-Shabaab and other radical Islamists began firing at the new TFG president hours later. They accused the new president of accepting the secular transitional government. On 8 February, heavy fighting broke out in southern Mogadishu. Al-Shabaab leader Sheikh Mukhtar Rabo, Abu Mansour, met with Sharif Ahmed for peace talks during his visit to Mogadishu, while Omar Iman rejected the president. During these negotiations, Sharif Ahmed said that he would be prepared to enforce Sharia law in Somalia, which is now the radical group's main demand. However, Sheikh Mukhtar Rabo, a former Al-Shabaab spokesman, denied having talked to Sharif Ahmed and vowed to continue fighting until his demands for Sharia law were met. Sheikh Mukhtar Rabo warned Nigeria against sending peacekeepers to Somalia, as Al-Shabaab views the AU peacekeepers as occupying forces and will continue fighting them until they withdraw from the country. On 10 February, Al-Shabaab launched an offensive to take the Baykul province. Government officials who had been ousted from Baidoa had been amassing troops in the city of Hudar, Zoar, and planning a major offensive to retake Baidoa. Islamist forces attacked the province and reached the capital, where they started a battle against government forces. In Galmudug, clan militia took the town of Masaga away from Al-Shabaab. There was also fighting in Warashik. On 12 February, the spokesman for Al-Shabaab, Sheikh Mukhtar Rabo, Abu Mansour, rebuffed reports from several media outlets that a mutual agreement between him and newly elected President Sharif Ahmed was made. He also added that he had no intention to contact the president on any matters, and that they would continue fighting against foreign troops and what he described as an apostate government. The same day, they vowed war against the new government. On 22 February, a double suicide bomb attack on an AU base in Mogadishu left 11 Burundian soldiers dead and another 15 wounded. 2 days later, heavy fighting erupted in the city as TFG and AU forces attempted to retake the city from radical Islamist forces. The fighting lasted for 2 days and killed 87 people, including 48 civilians, 15 insurgents and 6 TFG policemen. At the same time as the fighting raged in Mogadishu, Al-Shabaab forces took the town of Hudar, to the northwest, in fighting that killed another 20 people, 10 TFG soldiers, 6 insurgents and 4 civilians. On 28 February, it appeared that Hizbul Islam would sign a ceasefire with the transitional federal government. However, by 1 March, it was clear that no ceasefire would be given, despite President Sharif Ahmed having agreed to proposals for a truce and having offered to accept the implementation of Sharia law but refused to move troops from civilian areas despite the Islamists doing so. On 6 May, Al-Shabaab announced that it would continue the war even if AMISOM withdrew. 25 May, the government announced an immediate blockade on airstrips and seaports under insurgent control to stop the flow of weapons reaching them. On 7 May, a fierce battle for control of Mogadishu started between Al-Shabaab and Hizbul Islam against the TFG. Hundreds were killed and injured and tens of thousands were displaced. By 11 May, rebel forces gained the upper hand and made large gains, taking over most of the capital. Fighting continued until 14 May and, though they came close, the rebels didn't manage to overthrow the government. There were new rounds of fighting all through August. 16 May, Al-Shabaab captured the strategic town of Jowar, which connects Mogadishu with central Somalia. 5 June, Hizbul Islam captured Wabho in one of the largest battles of the war, which left 123 combatants killed. It was also rumored Sheikh Gashandigaournal was injured in this battle. On 19 June, the Transitional Parliament Speaker Sheikh Adan Mohammed Nurmadobi asked the international community to send foreign troops to Somalia within the following 24 hours. He stated that the government's power is on the verge of being defeated by Islamist forces in the Somali capital. The cabinet declared a state of emergency and Somalia asked for help from neighbors Kenya, Djibouti, Ethiopia, and Yemen. Ethiopia refused, saying intervention needs an international mandate. On 21 June, a spokesman for the Al-Shabaab Islamists said they would fight any foreign troops. Al-Qaeda also made threats against Kenyan intervention. 22 June, Somali President Sheikh Sharif Ahmed declared state of emergency in the country as a new round of fighting in Mogadishu left 12 dead and 20 injured. Hundreds were said to be fleeing the city. 4th of July, Sheikh Abdi Nasser Jalil, a former commander of the Training for ICU administration in Beledban town, joined Hizbul Islam with his men and vowed to fight TFG forces in the city and attack Ethiopian forces in El Gal village, which lies 18 kilometers from Beledban. He said that the government officials want to bring Ethiopian troops inside town and that is the reason they switched sides. Former ICU officials who joined Hizbul Islam held a press conference and announced that the ICU administration in Haran had collapsed as they joined the insurgents. Sheikh Ibrahim Yusuf, a top security commander in Beledban, also defected along with his forces. General Mukhtar Hussein Afra was sent to Beledban along with TFG troops and put in charge there by the TFG as the ICU administration had collapsed. Many ICU officials including MPs resigned that day next to Sheikh Abdi Nasser Jalil Ahmed, head of training, and Sheikh Ibrahim Yusuf, head of security, Sheikh Osman Abdul Barak Wadal, the army commander of Ugas Caliph Airport, and Sheikh Abdullahi Garam Garam, the deputy chief of the emergency forces, also resigned. In response, TFG forces led by General Mukhtar Hussein Afra started military maneuvers in the east side of the city. 6th of July, Sheikh Mokhtar Ali Zubair, the emir of Al-Shabaab, gave government forces an ultimatum of 5 days to hand over their weapons. The ultimatum was rejected by Adde. 17th of July, 2 French security advisors to the government were captured by insurgents. The Somali government gave permission for French commandos to launch operations inside Somalia to free the 2 French nationals that held by Al-Shabaab. On 22nd of July, French warships and helicopters were seen near the ports of Mogadishu and Marca as France declared they would undertake military operations to free the 2 French military advisors who had been captured by insurgents. One hostage, Marc Aubrière, escaped a month later in August 2009. The second, Denis Alex, was seen in a video released in June 2010 asking for assistance to effect his release. On 15th of September, a helicopter raid conducted by the U.S. military killed 6, including a key al-Qaeda member, Saleh Ali Saleh. Al-Shabaab-Hizbul Islam conflict. The armed conflict between Hizbul Islam and Al-Shabaab began due to a dispute between the faction of the Ras Kamboni brigades led by Sheikh Ahmed Madib and Al-Shabaab, over a power-sharing agreement in Kismayo. Hizbul Islam and Al-Shabaab had made a power-sharing agreement for the city, where the power would rotate between the 2 factions, with each faction controlling the city for periods of 6 months. However, due to clan politics, Al-Shabaab refused to let the power rotation take place. This led to internal problems within Hizbul Islam as its ARSA and Shabaso factions, which were aligned with Al-Shabaab in Haran and Mogadishu, refused to support the Ras Kamboni brigades, while Anol remained neutral. It also led to a split within the Ras Kamboni brigades, with a faction led by Hizbul Islam's deputy chairman Sheikh Hassan Turki refusing to back Ahmad Madub and instead siding with Al-Shabaab. On 1st of October, heavy fighting broke out. By the afternoon, Al-Shabaab controlled most of the city with dozens of casualties reported. At least 17 people were killed in a series of battles overnight on 5th of October. A Hizbul Islam spokesman claimed that they had captured foreign fighters in the battle. The battle was decisively won by Al-Shabaab, which expelled Madbob's Ras Kamboni brigade forces from the city. Throughout November 2009, fighting between the 2 factions continued in southern Somalia, and as a result insurgent attacks in Mogadishu targeting TFG and AMISOM forces decreased. However, Sheikh Ahmad Madobi's forces were soon overpowered by Al-Shabaab and its local allies and forced to withdraw from the lower Jubba region and most of southern Somalia. In February 2010, Sheikh Hassan Turki's branch of the Ras Kamboni brigades declared a merge with Al-Shabaab. He encouraged other groups in Hizbul Islam to also join Al-Shabaab. In early 2010, the 2 groups clashed in Haran region, in central Somalia. This battle was also won by Al-Shabaab, which took control of the region. In late 2010, they also expelled Hizbul Islam from Bay region after seizing control of Burhakab, after a 2 days battle in which 30 militants were killed. In Lower Shabelle region, Al-Shabaab seized control of Hizbul Islam strongholds, Furakili, Farsuli and Dugal villages, and then started preparing an offensive in Afgouye, the last town Hizbul Islam controlled in the region. Soon after, Hizbul Islam was forced to surrender the Lu'uk district in Ghetto region to Al-Shabaab, after which it was announced that Hizbul Islam would merge with Al-Shabaab. From mid-December, Al-Shabaab fighters started taking over Hizbul Islam positions. Hizbul Islam fighters also started entering Al-Shabaab-controlled areas of Mogadishu. The merge was confirmed on 20th of December, when Hizbul Islam chairman Sheikh Gashandiga Awais and Sheikh Mohammed Usman Arus, the organization's official spokesman, surrendered to Al-Shabaab and disbanded the organization. Galmudug and Islamists. Government officials from the Galmudug administration in the north-central Hibyo district also reportedly attempted to use pirate gangs as a bulwark against Islamist insurgents from southern Somalia's conflict zones. Other pirates are alleged to have reached agreements of their own with the Islamist groups, although a senior commander from the Hizbul Islam militia vowed to eradicate piracy by imposing Sharia law when his group briefly took control of Harartir in May 2010 and drove out the local pirates. Battle of Gashandiga. An early 2011 offensive was dubbed by AU Representative Wafula Wamanyini as the Battle of Gashandiga. On February 20, 2011, it was reported that AMISOM troops destroyed a large complex of Al-Shabaab trenches, and killed 6 Al-Shabaab commanders in Mogadishu. 2 AMISOM troops died in those battles. On 21 February, at least 20 people, including TFG policemen, were killed in a suicide car bomb attack in Mogadishu. Between 21 and 22 February, 12 people were killed in heavy shelling in Mogadishu. On 25 February, 15 people were killed as Al-Shabaab fighters attempted to retake lost territory in Mogadishu. Additionally, rebels displayed 1 wounded and 5 dead Burundian AMISOM soldiers. On 26 February, an offensive by TFG troops with support of Ethiopian soldiers was opened in the southern Somali town of Bulahao. Until 28 February, 33 people were killed in TFG and Ethiopian shelling. By 5 March, AMISOM and TFG forces claimed to control 7 of the city's districts, while 6 were contested and 3 were controlled by anti-government forces. Al-Shabaab responded to the government offensive by putting up roadblocks to prevent the movement of goods from the seaport. This adversely affected both sides of the conflict, as the TFG controlled the port and its profits, while the Bakara market, where many of the goods were bound to be sold, was controlled by the insurgents. It was reported that by 5 March, up to 53 AMISOM may have died in the clashes. Of those, 43 Burundian and 10 Ugandan. By 16 March, AMISOM was bolstered by an additional 1,000 peacekeepers to assist in the TFG's renewed offensive against Al-Shabaab, bringing the total manpower of AMISOM to nearly 9,000. Defeat of Al-Shabaab in Mogadishu. On August 6, 2011, the transitional federal government's troops and their AMISOM allies managed to capture all of Mogadishu from the Al-Shabaab militants. Witnesses reported Al-Shabaab vehicles abandoning their bases in the capital for the south-central city of Baidoa. The group's spokesman Sheikh Ali Mahmoud Rage described the exodus as a tactical retreat, and vowed to continue the insurgency against the national government. Observers have suggested that the pullout may at least in part have been caused by internal ideological rifts in the rebel organization. After their withdrawal, Al-Shabaab has however continued hit-and-run tactics in the north of the city as they vow to continue guerrilla attacks in Mogadishu. On October 4, 2011, a suicide bomb on a lorry detonated and killed more than 70 people near a compound housing several government ministries. 2 weeks later, a car bomb killed at least 2 people. On October 11, 2011, AU troops claimed to have driven the remnants of Al-Shabaab out of the city. As of November 2012, Mogadishu was still firmly in AMISOM and TFG hands, although the city continued to suffer from suicide bomb attacks. Fighting in Puntland. On 2 to 3 September, fighting was reported in Puntland that resulted in the deaths of up to 60 people, including 8 Puntland soldiers and 40 Al-Shabaab militants, with insurgents being repelled. Al-Shabaab claimed on 7 September that they had captured 2 Kenyan troops who were on a surveillance mission near the Kenyan-Somalian border. Puntland forces captured 18 members of Al-Shabaab in counter-terrorism operations on 8 September. Battle of Elwaq. Al-Shabaab attacked the southern town of Elwaq on September 10, 2011, resulting in the deaths of 12 insurgents and soldiers. The next day, Somali troops fought back, retaking the town after militants fled on captured technicals. The bodies of 30 militants were later found, some of them children. Conversely, Al-Shabaab claimed they killed around 70 government-aligned troops and captured 10 technicals. The Burundian military lost 51 soldiers in October, causing anger among Burundians, who believe that their country is sacrificing too much. Many Burundians have urged other AU members to contribute troops to the Somalia mission. Nigeria, Djibouti, and Guinea have indicated sending troops, but all have yet to contribute. Kismayo offensive. On September 4, 2012, the Kenyan Navy shelled Kismayo. This was part of an AU offensive to capture the city from Al-Shabaab fighters. The harbor was shelled 2 times and the airport 3 times. According to a UN report, the export of charcoal through Kismayo is a major source of income for Al-Shabaab. On September 28, 2012, the Somali National Army assisted by AMISOM troops and Ras Kamboni militia launched an assault on Kismayo, Al-Shabaab's last major stronghold. The Allied forces reportedly managed to recapture much of the city from the insurgents. Operation Indian Ocean. In August 2014, the Somali government-led Operation Indian Ocean was launched to clean up the remaining insurgent-held pockets in the countryside. On September 1, 2014, a U.S. drone strike carried out as part of the broader mission killed Al-Shabaab leader Mokhtar Ali Zubair. U.S. authorities hailed the raid as a major symbolic and operational loss for Al-Shabaab, and the Somali government offered a 45-day amnesty to all moderate members of the militant group. Political analysts also suggested that the insurgent commander's death will likely lead to Al-Shabaab's fragmentation and eventual dissolution. Operation Jubba Corridor. At the end of the month of July 2015, AMISOM and Somalia National Army regained many villages and major towns of Bardhir and Dinsur. Battle of El Adde and resurgence of Al-Shabaab. On January 15, 2016, Al-Shabaab attacked a Kenyan-run AMISOM base in El Adde, Somalia, overrunning the compound and killing approximately 60 soldiers. Al-Shabaab then regained the important town of Marka, 45 kilometers from the capital, and the port of Guard in Puntland region, March 2016. The resurgence of Al-Shabaab could entail serious implications for the humanitarian sector. On March 5, 2016, U.S. airstrikes carried out by aircraft and unmanned drones killed more than 150 Al-Shabaab terrorists at a terrorist training camp called Camp Raso, located about 120 miles north of Mogadishu as they were completing training for a large-scale attack, according to a Pentagon spokesman. The camp had been under surveillance for some time before the strike. In the early hours of March 9, 2016, U.S. Special Forces and Somali National Army Special Forces killed between 1 and 15 Al-Shabaab terrorists in a heliborne attack on the Al-Shabaab-controlled town of Adde, as well as capturing an undisclosed number of high-value Al-Shabaab figures the militants were training for a major operation against coalition forces. On 11/April 12, 2016, 2 U.S. airstrikes on Al-Shabaab targets in the town of Kismayo killed about a dozen suspected militants who posed an imminent threat to American troops in the country. As of May 2016, roughly 50 U.S. Special Operations troops operate at undisclosed locations across southern Somalia, with their headquarters at the airport in Mogadishu, advising and assisting Kenyan, Somali and Ugandan forces in their fight against Al-Shabaab. Also in that month, U.S. personnel helped those forces plan an operation against illegal checkpoints. On May 12, 2016, a small group of U.S. military advisors accompanied some Ugandan soldiers during a raid on an illegal taxation checkpoint just west of Mogadishu. When the Ugandans came under fire from 15 to 20 Al-Shabaab militants, the U.S. commander on the ground called in a defensive airstrike, killing 5 militants and wounding 2 more. 2 days previously, the U.S. provided helicopters and advise and assist in support of a Somali military mission against a group of Al-Shabaab militants, which one defense official said was also defensive because they had intelligence that the Al-Shabaab fighters were planning an attack on the AMISOM installation nearby. No word on how many Al-Shabaab were killed or wounded in that operation. On 13th May, a U.S. strike targeted 9 Al-Shabaab militants, 3 of them were allegedly killed. On the night of May 31, 2016, 2 senior Al-Shabaab operatives, Mahmoud Duliadan, the plotter behind the Garissa University attack in April 2015, and Malim Daoud, head of Al-Shabaab's intelligence hit squads, and another 16 members from Al-Shabaab were killed by the Somali National Army and anti-terror partners. Defense Department spokeswoman Lieutenant Colonel Michelle L. Baldanza told CNN U.S. forces supported this Somali-led operation in an advise and assist role. On June 1, 2016, Al-Shabaab militants attacked with a car bomb on the gate of Ambassador Hotel in Mogadishu, Somalia. At least 15 people have been killed in the attack, among 10 civilian pedestrians and 2 members of parliament near the gate. Also that day, the Pentagon announced that it had conducted an airstrike that killed a senior Al-Shabaab leader in Somalia on 27 May. On August 3, 2016, a contingent of elite American troops acting as military advisors assisted Somali commandos in an assault on an Al-Shabaab checkpoint in Sakau. As the Somali-led force approached the checkpoint, the militants opened fire. A gun battle ensued that resulted in 3 militants killed. On September 29, 2016, a Somalian regional government demanded an explanation from the United States after an airstrike killed 22 civilians and other soldiers instead of the targeted Al-Shabaab militants in Galmudug. The Military Times also reported that on 26 September a bomb manufacturing network linked Al-Shabaab attacked a small team of U.S. and Somali troops, who were conducting an operation near Kismayo, with small arms fire. A Pentagon spokesman said the U.S. military conducted a self-defense strike to neutralize the threat and in doing so killed 9 enemy fighters. Also on 28 September, near the town of Galkayo, a Somali army unit conducting counterterrorism operations nearby, when the Somali soldiers came under fire from Al-Shabaab militants. The Somali soldiers engaged them, then broke contact and rejoined with their nearby American advisors, and soon afterwards the militants began to maneuver in an offensive manner, so the U.S. conducted a self-defense airstrike, killing 4 militants. American involvement expanded. In late March 2017, President Donald Trump signed off a new strategy granting Africa more freedom in counter-terrorist operations. Stars and Stripes reported that in addition to the stepping up of airstrikes, U.S. special forces on the front lines with Somali forces have also been increased. Conventional U.S. troops give lessons in building defense institutions, with added support from other nations. CNN reported that General Thomas Waldhauser, commander of AFRICOM, told reporters in April that the U.S. seeks to help Somali security forces gain the ability to provide for their own security by 2021. The New York Times reported that on May 4, 2017, a U.S. Navy SEAL team partnered with Somali National Army forces, carried out a mission on an Al-Shabaab-occupied complex around 60 kilometers, 40 miles, west of Mogadishu. Fox News reported that they targeting what Pentagon spokesperson Captain Jeff Davis said was a group of people associated with attacks on Mogadishu. The New York Times reported that Defense Department officials said that Somali forces were to have led the operation, with the SEALs hanging back in an advise, assist and accompany role. However, Brig. Gen. David J. Furness, the commander of the military's task force for the Horn of Africa, said that American and Somali forces were traveling together in a single group. Whilst approaching the complex, the militants opened fire and the mission was aborted. Senior Chief Petty Officer Kyle Milliken was killed, 2 other SEALs and an interpreter were wounded. Captain Jeff Davis said that the mission resulted in the death of 3 Shabaab operatives including Molan Osman Abdi Badil. The group quickly returned to the aircraft that had taken it to the area and was exfilled. Davis described Badil as an Al-Shabaab leader responsible for gathering information on troop movements in order to support attacks on Somali and African Union forces, and that he had been linked to the death of several soldiers and at least 1 civilian. CNN reported that on June 11, 2017, that a U.S. airstrike killed 8 Al-Shabaab militants in Sakau. The president of Somalia said that this was a successful strike which destroyed a key Al-Shabaab command and supply hub, and that this will ultimately disrupt the enemy's ability to conduct new attacks within Somalia. CNN reported that on July 23, 2017, the U.S. carried out a targeted airstrike in Al-Shabaab regional commander in Banadar. Fox News reported that on July 30, 2017, a U.S. strike near Tortorao in southern Somalia, which was coordinated with regional partners as a direct response to Al-Shabaab's actions, which included attacks on Somali forces, killed Ali Jabal, who was considered a senior Al-Shabaab terrorist and was responsible for leading forces operating in the Mogadishu and Banadar area, including planning and carrying out attacks in Mogadishu. ABC reported that on August 10, 2017, Airstrikes conducted by drones in Bonadir in a joint operation against Al-Shabaab fighters, killing a high-level Al-Shabaab leader. The airstrikes marked the fourth offensive airstrike against Al-Shabaab since the new authorization in March. CNN reported that on August 17, 2017, the U.S. conducted a self-defense drone strike in Jilib after a joint U.S.-Somali force, consisting of Somali troops and U.S. advisors, came under direct attack by Al-Shabaab militants and a firefight ensued. 7 militants were killed. Military.com reported that on November 3, 2017, that a U.S. drone conducted 2 airstrikes against Islamic State in Somalia. At least 6 missiles were used which struck in Bucca, 37 miles north of Kandala. AFRICOM said in a statement that several terrorists were killed and that the strikes were carried out in coordination with Somalia's government, marking the first time the U.S. has conducted airstrikes against ISIS terrorists in Somalia. CNN reported that U.S. drone aircraft conducted 5 strikes between 9 and 12 November against Al-Shabaab and ISIS-linked militants, killing 36 Al-Shabaab and 4 ISIS terrorists. One of the strikes killed an Al-Shabaab terrorist who had attacked a joint U.S.-Somali military convoy in Gadjud. CNN reported that a U.S. airstrike on a camp 125 miles northwest of Mogadishu killed more than 100 Al-Shabaab militants. The U.S. now estimates there are between 3,000 and 6,000 Al-Shabaab fighters and less than 250 ISIS operatives in Somalia. Military Times reported that on 14 November, a U.S. drone strike roughly 60 miles northwest of Mogadishu killed several Al-Shabaab militants. CNN reported that on 24 December, a U.S. airstrike in southern Somalia killed 13 Al-Shabaab terrorists.